In the heart of Ajegunle, where rusted rooftops hummed with the buzz of generators, Amarachi, Ama Daramola, sat quietly in a dim, crowded room. At 22, she should have been in university, but life had other plans. Her mother died when she was 17, and since then, her stepfather, Mr. Segun Adebayo, made it his life's mission to remind her she didn't belong. "Ama," he barked from the corridor, his gravelly voice slicing through the noise of the compound. She rushed into the room, heart pounding. He tossed a brown envelope at her. "Your school fees," he grunted. "Take it straight to school. Lose it and you're finished. Don't come back." Ama nodded, clutching the envelope like it held her last breath. "Forget university," he added. "You'll sell pepper at Boundary Market. That's all you're good for." On her way out, Yeti, her stepsister, stood at the door in tight jeans and lip gloss. "Big woman in uniform," she sneered. "At your age? Pity." Ama said nothing. She stepped past her and into the blinding Lagos sun. The road was dry and cracked. Okadas zoomed past with reckless speed. She adjusted her worn sandals and began the long walk toward her school near Boundary. Despite the chaos, Ama felt something shift in the air. The envelope in her bag pulsed with weight, not just of money, but of choice, of destiny. And ahead, by a crumbling wall near CMS, an old man would soon appear, one who would change her life forever. As Ama crossed the pedestrian bridge near CMS, the Lagos sun beat down and, like punishment. Her sandals slapped against the hot concrete, and the brown envelope in her bag pressed harder against her side, as if reminding her of the consequences. Near the old UBA building, she spotted an elderly man slumped by the roadside. His agbada was threadbare, and his frame looked like it might collapse with the wind. A small tin bowl lay empty beside him. "Please, my daughter," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "I haven't eaten since yesterday." Ama paused. She had no food, no extra money, and no backup if anything went wrong. Her stepfather's words echoed in her head. "Don't come back if you lose that money." She turned to leave, but after a few steps, she froze. Her heart tugged painfully. She looked back at the man. Something about him, his eyes maybe, looked like he had known pain for a long time. Slowly she returned, opened her bag and pulled out the brown envelope. She stared at it, trembling. "I can't give him just a part," she muttered. "What would it change?" Without thinking further, she placed the entire envelope into the old man's hands. He blinked. "No, this is too much." "Keep it," Ama said softly. "It's all I have." Tears welled in his eyes. "May God bless you, my child. What's your name?" "Amarachi, but people call me Ama." "I'm Baba Remy," he replied, his voice thick with emotion. "You've just saved me." Ama managed a small smile, then turned away. Each step away from him felt heavier than the last. She had no idea how she'd face home, but for the first time in a long while, her soul felt light. Ama stood outside her compound in Ajegunle, heart pounding. The sky above was bright, but inside her, a storm brewed. She had no school fee receipt, only the memory of an old man's tears. The gate creaked as she entered. Mr. Segun Adebayo was seated on a wooden bench, cane in hand. "Where's the receipt?" he demanded. Ama's lips trembled. I lost the money." Silence, then thunder. "You what?" Before she could explain, the cane lashed across her back. She screamed but didn't fight back. "You're sleeping with one of those useless boys, Abby," he barked. "You want to disgrace me." When he finally stopped, Breathless and furious, he pointed at the door. "Tomorrow morning you'll go to Makoko and fetch water from the swamp. Let's see if the spirits there won't swallow your stubborn soul." Ama's eyes widened. Even kids feared the murky waters of Makoko. People whispered of things seen and voices heard. "Please, Papa, that place—" "Shut up," he roared. That night, Ama lay curled on the thin mattress, her back burning, her stomach empty. Yet by morning, she rose. With trembling arms, she lifted the water container and began the walk. At the swamp, the wooden planks creaked under her weight. The air smelled of wet wood and fish. Her hands shook as she dipped the bowl into the dark water. Nothing happened. She turned and walked back, stunned by her own survival. When she returned, Mr. Segun narrowed his eyes. "You came back," he spat. "You're not normal. You must be a witch." Ama said nothing. She went to a corner where no one could see her tears. But inside, something was shifting. Pain had long lived in her body, but now courage was beginning to stir. A few days passed, but the bruises on Ama's back still ached. The house remained hostile. Mr. Segun's eyes burned with suspicion, and yet he acted like a queen in her father's kingdom. That afternoon, Ama was in the kitchen pounding yam when a knock came at the door. She wiped her hands and opened it. A tall man stood there in tight jeans, drenched in cheap cologne. He smirked. "You must be Yeti's sister." Ama stepped aside silently. She set the food on the table and turned to leave, but his voice stopped her. "You're finer than your sister," he said boldly. "You shouldn't waste that beauty here." Ama blinked. "Excuse me? I can take you to the island. You'll wear lace every Sunday. Just say yes." Ama folded her arms. "You're her boyfriend." He chuckled. "Not serious." She forced it. "But you're different." Ama stepped closer, face calm. "If you're rich, why do your shoes look like they begged for transport? And your shirt, does it double as pajamas?" He stiffened. "What?" "Your mouth is louder than your pocket," she added. "Get out." He stormed off, face red. Minutes later, Yeti burst into the compound, phone pressed to her ear. "Papa!" she screamed. "Ama tried to seduce my boyfriend. He just called me." Mr. Segun marched out. "What?" Ama stepped out, eyes wide. "It's a lie. He—" The slap landed before she finished. Another followed. "You'll not eat in this house," he thundered. "If I see you talk to any man again, I'll strip you naked." Ama ran into the backyard, her soul torn. That night, she slipped away to her mother's grave behind the church. She knelt beside the cracked cement and whispered through tears. "Mama, I'm tired. Help me. Please." The wind rustled through the mango trees. The stars blinked, but gave no answers. 2 days passed. Ama's body was weak from hunger, but her spirit was thinner. She swept the compound silently that morning, praying for peace. Mr. Segun watched her from the doorway, a strange look in his eyes. He shut the door behind her. "Ama," he said, forcing a smile, "your mother sent masquerades to flog me, right? Spirits warned me not to beat you again." Ama's spine stiffened. "But don't worry," he whispered, stepping closer. "I'll punish you another way. Let me give you a child, then I'll throw you out. Let's see who'll want a single mother with nothing." Ama froze. "What did you just say?" He reached for her arm. In a flash, a fire burst inside her. Years of pain erupted. Her fist flew into his jaw. He crashed to the ground, groaning. Ama didn't wait. She rushed to her room, grabbed her small bag and the folded paper Baba Remi had given her, and bolted out of the house. Her breath came in sharp bursts as she ran past the shops, the dusty road, the jeering Okada boys. She reached the small motor park near Boundary Market. A bus was loading for Lekki. "Where you dey go?" the conductor asked. "Lekki Phase 1. She climbed in, clutching the address like it was her life. As the bus roared to life and the city blurred outside, tears rolled down her face. Not from fear, but freedom. "I'm free," she whispered. She didn't know what awaited her, but she knew one thing. She was never going back. Lekki Phase. One looked like another planet. Smooth roads, tall gates, trees trimmed like royalty. Amma stepped off the bus, clutching the address. With help from a kind keke driver, she found the compound, neat, quiet, painted cream and grey. She knocked. Baba Remi opened the gate, stunned. "Amma, you came." Tears spilled as she fell into his arms. He tried to... "I had to run." "You're safe now," he whispered. "No one will ever touch you again." He led her into a modest boys' quarters behind the main house. Clean, tiled floor, a bed, a fan, a wardrobe. "This is your room now." Amma smiled weakly. "Thank you, Papa." A few hours later, she heard footsteps. The front door burst open. A young man stepped in, tall, sharply dressed, eyes like thunderclouds. "What are you doing here?" he demanded. Amma stood, startled. "Good afternoon, sir. I'm Baba Remi's daughter." The man scoffed. "His what?" "The gateman now has a daughter living in my house without my permission." Amma opened her mouth, but he snapped. "Don't touch anything, and tell him I want to see him. Now." He slammed the door behind him. Amma stood frozen, her heart pounding. She stared at the empty room, then whispered, "He's rude. But why is he so fine?" She shook her head fast. "No, focus." When Baba Remi returned, she told him everything. His brows furrowed. "That's Frederick. My son." Amma gasped. "Your son? The owner?" "Yes," he said with a quiet smile. "I'm not a beggar. I only wanted to see if there were still good souls in this world." Amma's mouth fell open. "And I found one," he said. "You." The sun rose over Victoria Island like a blessing. Inside the Grand Civic Centre, gold curtains billowed softly, and white roses lined the aisle. Guests whispered as the music swelled. Amarachi. Amma Daramola stood at the entrance in a sparkling white gown, her eyes wide with awe. On her arm was Baba Remi, no longer a beggar, but a proud father in full agbada, his head held high. "Ready?" he whispered. Amma nodded, smiling through tears. Every step she took down the aisle was a step away from pain, from hunger, from shame. At the altar stood Frederick, no longer the arrogant man from before, but a humbled soul in a black velvet suit, watching her like she was a miracle. As she reached him, he leaned close. "You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And you," she whispered, "are my answered prayer." They exchanged vows, voices steady with love. When the rings slid on their fingers, the hall erupted in applause. Baba Remi wiped his eyes beside them. Later, at the reception, Amma danced with Frederick as Fuji blended with Afro beats, their joy louder than the drums. Paparazzi flashed, guests cheered, and even the sky seemed to smile. Far away, in dusty Ajegunle, Mr. Segun Adebayo sat outside, chewing bitter cola. A neighbor ran by shouting, "Amadon Mare, for TVO, big man for Lekki." Segun's hands clenched, his face twisted. "She stole my daughter's destiny." He stood abruptly, eyes blazing. I'm going to the shrine. I'll deal with her once and for all." He vanished into the bush path, muttering curses under his breath. But above him, the clouds began to gather. Mr. Segun stormed through the forest path behind Ajegunle, fists clenched, muttering curses. The shrine wasn't far. He would end this girl's joy. She will beg to return, or join her mother in the grave. But as he neared the old palm tree, the sky darkened unnaturally. The wind roared, leaves flew like frightened birds. Then crack! A bolt of lightning tore through the sky, striking a tree beside him. Segun fell, screaming. Another flash. This time it hit him directly. His cry pierced the forest before silence swallowed it whole. Back in Lekki, Amar was cooking Yolof rice when Baba Remi walked in, grinning. "My daughter," he said, removing his cap. "News just reached me. Your stepfather. He's gone." Thunder finished his evil mission. Amar paused, then quietly stirred the pot. "God doesn't sleep, Papa." Later, as she held Frederick's hand on the balcony, the evening breeze kissed her cheeks. "I never thought I'd know peace," she said. He smiled. "And I never thought I'd love again." She laughed gently. Life is funny. 9 months later, they welcomed a baby girl. Tiny, beautiful, with Amma's soft eyes and Frederick's charming smile. They named her Joy. At the naming ceremony, Baba Remi danced like a teenager, singing, "My grandbaby Don Land." Amma looked around her. The loving husband, the protective father, the peace in her home. The pain of the past was now just a shadow behind her. And for the first time in her life, she didn't just survive. She lived.